Never lose your temper. If your head comes away from your neck, it's over.
There can be only one. But behind Highlander, 1986, the sword-swinging cult classic that fused immortals, rock music, and lightning, lies a story of chaos, ego, and accidents so bizarre they almost killed the movie. Fact 1. Russell Mulcahy was a music video director when producers handed him Highlander. He'd never shot a feature film in his life. His resume, Duran Duran, Elton John, and the Buggles video killed the radio star. The studio wanted someone with flash, not experience. Mulcahy arrived on set with wild energy and zero idea how to direct a sword fight. He learned filmmaking the hard way by making mistakes daily. His style was pure chaos. Handheld shots, fog machines, and random lighting effects. Crew members called it MTV with swords. Mulcahy didn't use storyboards. He shot what felt cool. The result was unlike any fantasy movie ever made. Fast, surreal, and pulsing with 1980s electricity. Critics called it confusing. Fans called it art. Mulcahy later admitted, "I was making it up as I went." But his instinct created something unique, a visual fever dream that defined the decade. And that dream would only get stranger when a rock band joined the battle for immortality. Fact 2.
Never overextend your thrust. You're vulnerable and off balance.
The iconic music from Highlander wasn't supposed to exist. Queen was hired to write just one song, but they fell in love with the story. After watching a rough cut, Freddie Mercury said, "This isn't a film, it's an opera." The band decided to score the whole thing themselves. Each member wrote songs for specific characters. Who Wants to Live Forever for Connor's tragedy, Princes of the Universe for his power. They recorded between their A Kind of Magic tour dates, often working overnight. Mercury even matched his vocals to sword clashes frame by frame. The energy was so powerful that the producers scrapped the original score entirely. Queen's music became the movie's heartbeat. Grand, emotional, immortal. It turned an obscure fantasy film into a legend. Without Queen, Highlander might have vanished into obscurity. Instead, it became timeless. But while Queen made the film sing, one of its stars could barely understand the lyrics or his own dialogue. Fact 3.
His blood coursing. Feel? Come on!
When French actor Christopher Lambert was cast as Connor MacLeod, he spoke almost no English. He learned his lines phonetically, memorizing sounds instead of meanings. On set, he often didn't know what his co-stars were saying. Director Russell Mulcahy used translators to guide him through emotional scenes. Lambert said, "I didn't act. I listened to the music of the language." His thick accent became a character trait, adding mystery to the immortal warrior. Ironically, his confusion gave him the perfect alien quality. The crew nicknamed him the Lost Highlander. Sometimes his line readings made no sense, but Mulcahy loved the unpredictability. Co-star Clancy Brown said, "He didn't know what he was saying, but he felt it." Over time, Lambert improved his English and embraced the film's weirdness. By the end of shooting, he was fluent enough to improvise. The journey mirrored his character, a foreigner learning to survive across centuries. But while Lambert was struggling with words, his on-screen enemy was terrifying the crew in ways no one expected. Fact 4. Clancy Brown's Kurgan is one of cinema's most terrifying villains, and he was just as intense off camera. During a sword fight rehearsal, he swung too close to a stuntman and sliced open a safety mat. The producers freaked out. They considered firing him, calling him too dangerous. Brown laughed and said, "Then you shouldn't have given me a sword." His commitment to the role was absolute. He stayed in character between takes, growling and pacing like a predator. During one church scene, he licked the priest's hand, unscripted, shocking everyone, including Lambert. The crew called him the real immortal. Even Queen was unnerved after meeting him, with Brian May saying he didn't need music, he was the soundtrack. Brown nearly walked off the film after several safety complaints, but Mulcahy refused to lose him, saying, "He's chaos, and chaos is what this movie needs." The gamble worked. Kurgan became a horror icon, and that intensity carried into one of the wildest duels ever filmed. Fact 5. Forget CGI. Every sword clash in Highlander was real metal on metal. To make the sparks fly, the crew rigged the swords with hidden batteries and small wires. Every time the blades connected, real electricity crackled across the screen. It looked incredible and incredibly dangerous. Actors often burned their hands mid-fight. Clancy Brown once got shocked so badly his sword flew out of his grip. Christopher Lambert's sword snapped in half during one rehearsal, narrowly missing his face. There were no stunt doubles for most of the film. Mulcahy wanted the audience to see the actors' exhaustion. Fights were choreographed to music, each duel like a deadly dance. The realism came at a price: bruises, burns, and chaos. The crew carried first aid kits on set like props, but all that pain gave the film its legendary grit. Lambert said, "Every scar in that movie is real." And if that sounds intense, wait until you hear how lightning nearly destroyed their set for real. Fact 6. When immortals fought and lightning exploded across the screen, most people assumed it was movie magic. It wasn't. The crew actually used high-voltage Tesla coils to create real arcs of electricity. Sparks ripped through the air, sometimes hitting metal props nearby. Actors could feel the heat from 10 feet away. Mulcahy loved the danger. "If it looks fake, it's useless," he said. One coil misfired during a take, blasting a camera operator's tripod and frying the lens. The smell of burnt metal filled the room. Lambert joked, "Now it really feels immortal." Electricians constantly warned the director that someone could die if a charge grounded incorrectly. But Mulcahy refused to replace it with optical effects, claiming the chaos gave the scene a pulse. That raw power became part of Highlander's visual identity. The lightning looked alive because technically it was. And while the special effects crew fought electricity, another kind of storm was brewing behind the camera. A battle over the film's missing footage. Fact 7.
Who is the woman?
She's mine.
Not for much longer.
The original cut of Highlander was over 2.5 hours long. Studio executives panicked and demanded it be trimmed to under 2 hours. Dozens of scenes were deleted, including flashbacks that explain the origins of other immortals. Russell Mulcahy called the cuts a massacre. Some sequences were so heavily edited that storylines vanished completely. Early test audiences saw a darker, more tragic version of the film that no longer exists. The missing reels were stored in a London vault and later lost during an MGM corporate merger. Fans have spent decades hunting for the so-called immortal cut. Rumors say a few fragments survive in overseas prints. Mulcahy himself said he hasn't seen the full version since 1986. He described it as more operatic, less MTV. Every few years, fan campaigns beg for a restoration, but no one knows where to start. Even the studio can't find the master negatives. The lost scenes became legend, and legends, as we know, never die. They just get weirder, especially when one of them involves an alien planet. Fact 8. Before Highlander became a fantasy epic, it was pure sci-fi insanity. Early drafts revealed that the immortals were aliens exiled from a distant planet called Zeist. The idea came from producers who wanted a more cosmic mythology. Mulcahy hated it, but was forced to keep parts of it in early planning. After test audiences laughed at the concept, the alien origin was scrapped, or so they thought. The idea resurfaced years later in Highlander 2, The Quickening, widely regarded as one of the worst sequels ever made. Mulcahy was furious, calling it nonsense. He even walked out of the film's premiere after 10 minutes. Fans were equally horrified. The alien backstory contradicted everything in the original movie. Lambert later said, "We weren't aliens. We were just cursed." The alien twist became a cinematic cautionary tale about studio interference. It proved that immortality doesn't guarantee consistency. But as strange as the script was, what happened on location made it look tame, because nature itself tried to shut the movie down. Fact 9. Most of Highlander's outdoor scenes were filmed in the Scottish Highlands. Stunning, but deadly. The weather changed every 5 minutes. Sunlight turned to rain, fog rolled in without warning, and temperatures dropped below freezing. Mulcahy said, "It was like filming inside a blender." Crew tents collapsed under wind gusts, and equipment froze overnight. The constant moisture fried cameras and shorted out lights. Actors stood in soaked costumes for hours, teeth chattering between takes. Lambert slipped on wet rocks during a sword duel and bruised his spine. Stunt coordinators constantly reset schedules because conditions were unpredictable. Still, the bad weather added authenticity to every frame. Mulcahy refused to reshoot anything on a stage, insisting, "If they survive the Highlands, the audience will feel it." The ordeal bonded the cast. They called themselves the Survivors. When filming finally wrapped, they said it felt like escaping a real battlefield. But the chaos didn't stop when they left Scotland. It followed them straight into the editing room, where the music caused another rebellion. Fact 10. When Queen delivered their soundtrack, the studio panicked. Executives wanted a more traditional orchestral score, but Freddie Mercury refused to compromise. "You hired us for drama," he said, "so you're getting drama." The band demanded full creative control over how their songs were used. Some executives threatened to pull the contract. Queen threatened to pull their music. Eventually, a deal was struck. Queen's songs would dominate the key emotional moments, while orchestral pieces would fill the gaps. The mix worked perfectly. Mercury's Princes of the Universe became the anthem of immortality. Brian May said, "It was pure magic. Our music finally had swords." The band was so proud of the result that they built an entire album, A Kind of Magic, around it. The studio didn't realize they just created the film's immortal soul. Queen's energy turned Highlander from cult oddity to pop culture myth, and their sound inspired one of the film's strangest, most dangerous sequences: a sword fight inside a neon-lit parking garage. Fact 11.
All right.
The sword fight in the neon-lit parking garage is one of the most iconic in movie history, and it was pure chaos to film. The set was soaked in real water to create reflections, which made the floor dangerously slippery. Sparks flew from hidden car batteries attached to the blades. During one take, Lambert swung too close and actually sliced part of Clancy Brown's costume, and almost his skin. Brown didn't flinch, he just grinned and kept fighting. Mulcahy yelled, "Don't stop!" It's perfect. The intensity was real. Every clang, every scream, every spark captured on camera. The actors fought for hours under freezing mist, while crews dodged flying metal shards. The cars in the scene weren't props. They were real vehicles rented from locals, some of which got destroyed by accident. When the final blow came, the lightning effects nearly short-circuited the sound system. The crew called it the electric storm. That scene became the visual heart of Highlander, but it also left both stars injured and one nearly blind. Fact 12. During a sword duel, a shard of metal from a shattered prop sword hit Lambert in the eye. Shooting stopped immediately as he was rushed to a nearby hospital. Doctors said he was lucky. The fragment had missed his cornea by millimeters. For days, he had to film with one eye partially covered. Despite the pain, Lambert refused to quit. "Highlander doesn't blink," he joked. His vision issues made action scenes even more dangerous. But Mulcahy admired his toughness. Crew members described him as bleeding, bruised, and smiling. The injury gave his performance an intensity no acting class could teach. When he swings his sword in pain during the final battle, that pain was real. Lambert said, "Every cut in that movie cut me back." Fans assumed his exhaustion was part of the role, but it was pure survival. Still, his devotion impressed everyone, except one person, the film's American distributor, who thought the movie was a total disaster. Fact 13.
Yet slips away from us.
When Highlander premiered in 1986, it bombed. Critics were confused, audiences were indifferent, and marketing was nearly non-existent. The studio didn't know how to sell a movie about immortal swordsmen mixed with rock music and time travel. Posters were vague, trailers were rushed, and release schedules were a mess. In the US, it barely made $6 million, a disaster. Russell Mulcahy thought his career was over, but something strange happened. The film exploded overseas. In Europe and Japan, it became a massive hit. Word of mouth turned it into a cult phenomenon. Home video sales skyrocketed. Within 2 years, Highlander was re-released in theaters as a cult revival. Fans quoted lines, bought swords, and blared Queen on cassette players. What Hollywood dismissed, fans immortalized. The failure became fuel for its legend. And that global comeback led to one of the strangest movie franchises ever created, complete with time travel, clones, and aliens that nobody asked for. Fact 14.
There is one called Connor among them.
Aye.
Most people remember Highlander for the swords and lightning, but beneath that was a story about loneliness and identity. Connor MacLeod's immortality wasn't portrayed as a gift. It was a curse. He watched everyone he loved die while he stayed unchanged. Russell Mulcahy said the story was a tragedy disguised as a rock video. The lightning and quickening weren't just effects. They represented rebirth, enlightenment, and pain. Each duel was a ritual of evolution. Screenwriter Gregory Wyden, who wrote the script as a college assignment, based it on his fascination with death and eternity. He said, "I wanted to write about people who live forever and wish they didn't." The emotional core resonated with fans who saw beyond the spectacle. It gave the film unexpected depth, hidden beneath 80s flash. Even Queen's lyrics echoed the theme. "Who Wants to Live Forever" wasn't just a song, it was the movie's soul. But while the story gained spiritual meaning, behind the scenes things were falling apart again, this time between the director and the studio. Fact 15.
What kept you?
After filming wrapped, the studio took the film away from Russell Mulcahy. They didn't like the non-linear storytelling or his music video pacing. Executives cut several minutes from the ending and changed the music cues without permission. When Mulcahy saw the theatrical version, he stormed out of the premiere. He later said, "It wasn't my film anymore." The changes removed context from the final quickening scene, making it look random instead of spiritual. Fans immediately noticed inconsistencies. International versions restored some of the footage, but no two cuts were identical. It wasn't until years later that Mulcahy re-edited the film into his director's cut, restoring the original ending. That version finally captured the energy he intended. Raw, emotional, operatic. He said, "They cut my head off. I just grew another one." The irony was poetic. Highlander itself had resurrected, and that rebirth turned it into a symbol of artistic survival that mirrored its hero's eternal struggle. But the story of Highlander didn't end there. Its legacy only grew stranger. Fact 16. No one planned for Highlander to become legendary. It just wouldn't die. After flopping in US theaters, the movie exploded on home video. VHS rentals spread like wildfire across Europe, where fans treated it like a secret treasure. College dorms turned midnight screenings into rituals. By the early 90s, Highlander was quoted like scripture. "There can be only one" became a global catchphrase. Fans held sword-fighting tournaments in parking lots. Queen's soundtrack was blasting in every comic convention. The film's unique mix of tragedy, mythology, and rock music captured something timeless. It wasn't polished, it was powerful. The rough edges made it feel real, alive, almost dangerous. Mulcahy said, "It was a movie that refused to die." Over time, it inspired countless directors, from James Cameron to Zack Snyder. Its influence bled into pop culture, music videos, even anime. But the strangest part, the very thing that saved the movie, its soundtrack, almost doomed the sequel before it even started. Fact 17. When Highlander 2 went into production, the studio assumed Queen would come back. But Freddie Mercury had already passed away, and the band was grieving. Without him, they refused to record new material. The producers begged to reuse Princes of the Universe, but licensing became a nightmare. Queen's management felt the sequel dishonored the spirit of the original. Mulcahy himself hated the sequel's alien storyline and distanced himself entirely. The soundtrack ended up as a patchwork of leftover cues and synth replacements. Fans noticed immediately. The soul was gone. Highlander 2 was shredded by critics and became infamous as one of the worst sequels ever made. Roger Ebert called it a movie that confuses immortality with stupidity. Still, the failure only made fans love the original more. The absence of Queen proved how essential their music was to the film's identity. Without that thunderous heartbeat, Highlander felt mortal. But while the sequel died, the legend reincarnated, this time on television. Fact 18. In 1992, Highlander. The series brought the myth back to life. Adrian Paul played Duncan MacLeod, a distant relative of Connor, and instantly became a fan favorite. The show ran for 6 seasons and introduced a deeper immortal mythology. Russell Mulcahy directed several early episodes, bringing back his visual flair. Unlike the films, the series focused on philosophy, what it meant to live forever, and watch humanity evolve. It also connected with a younger audience who discovered the franchise through late-night reruns. The show's sword fights were choreographed like ballet, mixing beauty and brutality. Queen's Princes of the Universe blasted over the opening credits, linking the series to the film's spirit. The show's success resurrected Highlander as a brand. It proved the world wasn't done with immortals just yet, but with new life came new chaos, including a crossover movie so confusing it made the timeline impossible to follow. Fact 19. Between the sequels, spin-offs, and TV movies, Highlander's continuity became a paradox. Characters died, came back, or existed in alternate universes. One film erased another. One show ignored both. Fans tried mapping it all out but gave up halfway through. Even the creators admitted they lost track of who killed who. Lambert once joked, "Even the immortals can't survive this script." The mess reached its peak with Highlander. Endgame, which tried to merge the movie and TV timelines into one. It failed spectacularly, but still made money. Fans embraced the chaos because confusion had become part of the charm. The franchise was like its heroes. It couldn't die no matter how often it was decapitated. Every generation rediscovered it through different forms: DVD, streaming, memes. Its broken continuity somehow made it feel eternal. But through all that madness, one truth remained untouched: the message that made Highlander immortal. Fact 20. Almost 40 years later, Highlander refuses to fade. It inspired everything from The Matrix to John Wick, with their mythic duels and codes of honor. Directors still study its blend of rock opera and tragedy. Its flawed brilliance became its greatest strength. Even modern remakes, including the one now in development with Henry Cavill, can't escape the shadow of the original. Queen's music continues to echo through pop culture. Who Wants to Live Forever plays at weddings, funerals, and fan conventions alike. The movie's philosophy still hits deep, that eternity without love is just loneliness. Mulcahy calls it a film about death disguised as immortality. What began as an underdog production turned into a legend. Its mistakes became myths. Its chaos became art. Fans across generations still quote it proudly. There can be only one. And as long as those words are spoken, Highlander will never die.